Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Lyoko Retrospectives. And today we're going to be discussing episode 68 of Code Lyoko, Opening Act. And in this episode the school is getting another famous visitor. In this case it's a drummer it's the drummer from the band Subatomics. Part of the reason he's there is because he wants to visit his uncle, who it turns out is Jim. I swear to God that guy has the most interesting past and backstory. But it's also because his producers have been pretty much getting on the Subatomic's ass, kind of wanting to look for new talent. As such, he's here at Canuck because that's exactly what he wants to do. He wants to scout out the student body, listen to what they have to offer, and if he finds someone he likes, then they can act as the opening act for the Subatomics. Of course, the instant this gets out, everybody on the school at school is essentially just super excited and like, oh my god, we can be the opening act for the Subatomics, and they're all happy. Pretty much even the Lyoko group, or in this case Odd, is excited. But it also turns out that Aelita is interested in going, but Jeremy is stopping her. You see, because of the whole audition the principal wound up canceling classes for the day, so Jeremy thinks that they can use this opportunity to work on a program for this new sub he's working on, which would allow the group to enter the digital network and try and locate Xana. Which, as a result of this, means that Aelita wouldn't be able to go. Jeremy, of course, doesn't think there's any problem with skipping the audition because, as we've established, he has no tact. But at the same time, Aelita recognizes that he does have a point. After all, Xana could very easily launch an attack while she's doing all this, so they need to get every advantage they can, so she decides to stay and help. But even then, her heart's just not in it, and even when they're working, she's not really doing a lot, as she just can't help think of it's that she can't help but think about what's going on with the subatomics. Ultimately, Jeremy decides, maybe you should go since he sees how unhappy she is, which does get her excited enough to leave, though admittedly she does I feel like she does that she is kind of over-prioritizing it a little bit, especially since Jeremy does have a point, but at the same time, I feel like Jeremy should have understood her, because as we've established, he has no tact. And even when she runs out, he just kind of glares like, good lord, kind of sort of thing. But unfortunately, by the time Aelita gets to the gym, the auditions are over, and, well, Zach, the drummer, doesn't really have the drummer, but yeah. He doesn't like anybody. Everybody he's listened to has just not clicked for him, and he doesn't really know what to do because he's got to pick someone. But Aelita, even once seeing the auditions are over, decides to play her music anyway. And even while Zach, I think his name is Zach. Yeah, I'm sorry if it isn't Zach. Even while he's going through even as he's being harassed by other students to get their autographs, give an interview, or whatever, he hears Aelita's music in the gym, and he actually thinks that this is what he's looking for. Unfortunately, by the time he goes into the gym, Aelita's already gone, so it kind of becomes a Cinderella type of deal. He wants to figure out who it was, so he begins asking around, trying to find out who the mystery performer is. Of course, news gets around the campus, and Aelita ends up hearing this, her immediate response is to immediately make a dash for Zach and say, "Hey, it was me. I was the one that played that music." Even grabbing her demo CD and everything. But unfortunately, this is when Xana launches an attack, as he ends up. After Zach and Aelita vacated the gym, he activated a tower and created a polymorphic clone, this one time impersonating Zach. And so when Aelita goes to give who she thinks is Zach her demo, the clone ends up just zapping her knocking her out, and then just carries her all the way to the factory, which admittedly is kind of slightly humorous when at one point the clones just walks by Millie and Tamiya and doesn't even acknowledge them. Like, it doesn't even try to hide what it's doing. It's just like casually walking by while these two kids are just right there. Like, doesn't even try to hide it. It's like, what the hell? However, the group hears about the activated tower and they try to find Aelita, but based on the testimony of Millie and Tamiya, and just from talk and just from asking around, they're able to put the piece together that the Zack that kidnapped Aelita wasn't the real one, and but in their search, they end up crossing paths with the real Zack, and they do actually have Aelita's mix CD because they found where she was abducted, and when the clone zapped her, she dropped the CD. So while they're asking Zack, they actually do give him the CD, saying this is from the person who you want to talk to. It's right here, and after they give it to him and put the pieces together, Odd and Auric, because they're the ones doing the searching, make a beeline to the factory while Jeremy and Yumi realize that whatever. Well, Jeremy and Yumi, while not learning about the polymorphic clone, do learn that it took Aelita to the factory, so they know they just gotta go there. And yeah, the clone does throw Aelita into Lyoko, and once she arrives, she regains consciousness and immediately finds herself being beset upon by William and a few crabs. As such, it becomes standard Lyoko fare on Lyoko, but in the real world, as Odd and Ulrich are trying and go to the factory, Jim and Zack end up cutting them off because they listen to the CD, and Zack thinks that he was great. He wants to know who sang it, and they're trying. And of course, Odd and Ulrich are in a hurry, so they're like, "Look, we're in the middle of something. We have to hurry." But they're not backing down. They're like, "No, you tell us who made this CD right now." And they say, "Well, that's just it. She's in trouble, and we gotta go help her." And so they decide. And so Jim and Zack pretty much just force themselves to go with. And ultimately, Odd and Orc are okay with it because, return to the past and all that. So the four of them end up getting to the factory, but unfortunately, by the time they get there, the clone is already pretty much it's attacked Jeremy after it virtualized Aelita. It turned into a cloud of smoke, and while Yumi went into Lyoko to fight off William and give Aelita some leeway, the clone rematerialized and attacked Jeremy. As such, by the time Odd, Ulrich, Jim, and Zack arrive, they see the clone attacking, and Jim and Zack end up fending it off while Jeremy goes back to the console. As such, Odd and Ulrich go to Lyoko, and they're able to take care of the crabs surrounding Aelita, and thankfully Jeremy was able to virtualize in her a ride so she can fly past everything. But unfortunately, William can't go after her because he's dealing with Yumi and Ulrich one at a time, though. Ultimately, though, things do work out in the end as Aelita manages to get to the tower. William is fended off enough, and then when he realizes he's beaten, he retreats back to the digital sea, and the clone disappears. And just before the return of the past, Zack's like, "Wait, I need to know who made the CD. I want to know. I want to know." And Jeremy's just like, "Whatever," and returns to the past. As such, the episode ends with the auditions back up again, and Odd thinks that this is his chance to once again shine, that he just has to improve his music, and Zack will love it. But as Jeremy and Aelita, once more, Jeremy and Aelita are back to working on the submarine, and Jeremy's just treating this so casually, like, well, it's like, man, because the day's over, we have more time to work on this. When suddenly Zack knocks on his door. And he's like, "Hey, excuse me, are you Aelita Stone?" And Aelita, of course, is confused. And it turns out that he found that someone gave him her CD, and he loved it. And he'd like her to audition it at the gym. She thinks that, and Aelita's like, "Oh, thanks, I'd love to." And Jeremy's like, "Go ahead, go have fun." And as she's leaving, she's like, "Hey, what?" It's like, "Hey, where'd you get that?" It's like, "A friend of yours gave it to me." And as they leave, you see Jeremy just kind of smiling at them, and it's sweet. It's cute. I like that. So overall, yeah, I like this episode. I think one major thing I like about this episode, and that's just before we get into the other stuff, is that this is one of the few episodes that I think where the A plot and the B plot actually coordinate. Like, one has a lot to do. It actually is tied to the other. In this case, it's the whole thing with Zack. That's the primary plot in the episode. The only thing that occurs with Xana is just him taking advantage of the situation and creating a Zack clone, which he can use to get Aelita into Lyoko so William can throw her into the digital sea. Otherwise, the main plot of the episode is just him going to the school and looking for the talent, and even then ultimately throughout the episode, it's just kind of going along with that and going and just kind of seeing him as he discovers Aelita's work, him wanting to see her, and even by the end, even when they return to the past, thanks to Jeremy, he gets it before the auditions start, and he loves it. And I think that's actually something really nice. And I like that. I do like that, because again, as I've said before, a problem with Lyoko is that usually the A plot and the B plot don't really have a lot to do with each other. So this episode so it was nice to kind of see them so tied together. And honestly, another thing I really do like about it is that the episode actually has some good development. We get some more development for Aelita, and it's something beyond her whole connection to Franz Hopper. You see, all the way back in season 2, when Aelita was getting used to the real world, she tried to find more talents that she was good with. And one thing we did see of her in one episode was that she liked music. After all, that particular episode, she wanted being the DJ for the dance and she seemed to like it very much. Now, admittedly, we don't see a lot of that in episodes after, but at the very least, it's kind of nice that they're actually following up on it, as we see Aelita actually getting excited for Zach coming to the school and even having a demo CD on standby that she would like to give him. The only reason she doesn't give it to him right away is because Jeremy wants her help on this, and she ultimately does help because she realizes Jeremy does have a point that what they're working on is important, and Xana is a larger threat than her launching her music career. But at the same time, what I do like is that Jeremy, while clearly not being into it, is trying to be understanding. Before the Return of the Past, when they're working on the system before, he does say, you know what, go ahead, go off and do it. But he's not doing it to be in a snide fashion. He's just like, you know what, I think I can do this myself. Go ahead, Aelita. It's clear that he's not exactly happy, but he's not trying to be hurtful either. He knows that Aelita likes this, and while he doesn't care for it himself, it's clear he is trying to be happy. Now, admit it, and while I did kind of make that remark about Aelita immediately jumping, I was like, "Oh, thank you, Jeremy. I can go do this," because I feel like that she should still recognize the threat. I understand that she's not happy, but I feel at the same time, though, people can be selfish. And I'm not saying that in the sense of, oh, people are jackasses. No, I mean, people can be selfish. I'm not saying they should be selfish all the time, but sometimes you do need a break. Sometimes there are times when you just step aside and say, you know what, I like some me time. I want to do things that I want to do for once. There's nothing wrong with being selfless, but there are times when you can be selfish. The thing is, Aelita is not. And it's not like Aelita is not a completely selfish person. She isn't. She does care about people, and she does know the risks. That's why she stayed to help Jeremy before. But there are things you could say about her wanting this just because she wants this. She does still have a life. She does still have interests. There are things she wants to do, and even if there are bigger threats involved, there's nothing wrong with her wanting to just say, you know what, I just want to have some me time for once. And even that, and again, she's not a bad person. Keep in mind that even after Return to the Past, she still helped Jeremy. She still tried to help Jeremy with the submarine to to go online, to pretty much travel through the online network. It's just, but at the same time, she was still very much into it and was excited for the fact of being able that she was able to possibly head for this famous band that everyone loved. Hell, when she heard that Zach actually did love her music, she rushed to see him and give him the CD. And ultimately, she never actually heard him, and ultimately she never actually met him in person until the very end of the episode when Jeremy gave him it. And actually, to be fair, I kind of like that moment too. Jeremy acts like that Jeremy kind of acts like how he normally would. He doesn't care for it, so he still does all this whole thing just to have that opportunity to surprise Aelita, saying, "Oh, by the way, I did this thing for you. I heard he liked the music." Like, he doesn't actually say, "I'm the one that did this," but it's just kind of sweet seeing him do this for her. Like, he saw this guy, and while he clearly doesn't care for him or his music, it's something that Aelita definitely does care about. So, just kind of behind her back, he gives her demo CD to the guy. And before the auditions even start, the guy goes through and says, "Hey, I want to talk to you." And Jeremy's like, "Oh, go ahead. I can take care of this." It's sweet. I like that. It furthers Jeremy and Aelita's relationship, and that's a positive thing. I like that. And this whole thing actually does continue more of the story of the whole thing with Aelita just having a life. I like that. it's just kind of general sweetness, and again, and yeah, it's just nice. It's nice seeing Alita trying to branch out and do more of her own thing. It's nice seeing that get rewarded and expanded on. It's nice seeing how Jeremy, despite obviously not caring for this sort of thing, is still trying to help her and make her happy. It's nice. It's sweet. I like that. And again, another big thing of the episode is that this is the primary plot of the episode, and it ties into what Xana ultimately does. I like that, and we don't have a lot of episodes like that in Lyoko. I'm not saying we never do. It's just that they're not as you don't see them very often. So, yeah, on the whole, sweet episode. I liked it overall. So, yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson. I apologize for the increasingly getting worse lighting. Most of my lighting comes from outside, and the sun is going down, plus it's cloudy. So again, apologies, but hopefully everything will be better next week, and I'll see you then for the next episode. Take care.